We asked our Instagram followers who is the best Orzhov commander, and we can now tell you the top 10 best Orzhov commanders in MTG 2024 update. Just making it onto the list we have Aura Skyclan Hierophant. First printed in 2020 Zendikar Rising, the lifelinking cleric says whenever it or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the field. Right off the bat we're looking at everything cleric. Of the over 600 clerics in MTG, around 800 includes our Orzhov colours, so you know the rules.
You know the rules.
Here we're throwing in every cleric left, right and centre. The more we play, the more that when they die, we can then search our graveyard and bring another one straight back into play. With our commander and clerics, they do tend to fit nicely within everything lifelink, so having that trio of synergy at the table will always get you one step closer to the win. And to have an effective commander, we need to make sure that we have clerics hitting the graveyard, so having all of the various sack outlets there are key. There is nothing worse in EDH than having a commander that just doesn't do its job.
You had one job!
Moving on to number 9, we have Ratra Breck of Urborg. Printed once in 2022's Dominaria United, this zombie wizard has Vigilance and Ward 2. Other zombies you control have Vigilance. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a copy that's a copy of that creature. It's not legendary and a 2/2 zombie in addition to its other types. The prime focus for this zombie wizard is everything legendary. We want to fill our creatures in this deck to the brim with that legendary super type. That's because when they die, we'll get a copy of them straight back onto the field. Legendary cards are usually a league above your ordinary, non-legendary creatures too, so you'll be at double the advantage with all of that recursion. And if they have ETB or death triggers, that is double bang for your buck as you'll get to do the same all over again. Lastly, although some of these may not be legendary, a collection of creatures to again serve as sack outlets or to give you that extra razzle dazzle when they come back to life is essential. Razzle dazzle! Next on the list we have Fang, a Beaker boss. Printed in 2022's Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, at the beginning of combat on your turn, return target vehicle card from your graveyard to the field. It gains haste. Return it to owner's hand at the beginning of your next end step. Another favourite deck often played by Meme Master Steve, here we go all out vehicles. Since being introduced in Kaladesh, there are over 100 different vehicles available, and even better for us as around 69% of them fit in our colours.
Nice.
So this deck revolves entirely around those vehicles, throwing in every single one that we can find. The more we have, the more options of recursion we have for our commander. There are plenty of vehicle loving cards too, and that spans from cards that make all of our vehicles fly to just those basic cards that reward us from playing those amazing artifacts. An amazing commander that can pop off real quick, pop off real hard, and absolutely drive your opponents crazy.
Oh, come on now, I'm joking.
In at number 7 we have Brina the Demagogue. Released in the 2021 Commander Pre-Concept, Flying Brina says whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than another one of your opponents, that attacking player draws a card and you put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature you control. These decks are all about that pillow fort. A deck that is for the most political people at the party, you're making ways to make it as encouraging and desirable as possible to not only have your opponents stay away from you, but make it extra rewarding to attack each other. There are many ways to do this, whether it be leaning more into the Staxy side that White loves, enchanting enemy players, or even a little bit of goad. Your opponents will spend so much time attacking each other, then before you know it, your big army will swoop in under the radar and steal the win. You love to see it. Except Esper Sentinel, you hate to see that.
I still have nightmares.
Narrowly missing out on the top half we have Elas Ilkor, Sadistic Pilgrim. Another from Dominaria United, this Phyrexian with Death Touch says whenever another creature ETBs under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. Most Elas decks tend to go down that aristocrat route. We're going to create a big wide army, whether it be cheap mana value creatures or creating all of the tokens. The more creatures we have, the more ETB Elas triggers we'll have and the more life we'll gain. Of course, that is only the first part of our commander's 2-step plan. We want our creatures to die, so we'll be draining our opponents, so once again, common in Orzhov, we'll be playing all of those ways to make sure our creatures meet their grisly end. And those cards that make our opponents sack creatures at the same time, even better. Of course, we want our commander to stick around, so all of those ways to keep him on the field ensures we'll never miss a trigger. Next on up we have Eriette of the Charmed Apple. First printed in 2023's Wilds of Eldraine, each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of auras you control. A commander with 1 route here, and that's everything auras. To start with, you know the drill, throw in all of those aura loving and aura supporting cards. We're going to be playing them, so we may as well have those cards that reward playing them too. And then, very simply, we're playing all of those auras. A good mix too. We want to play some auras to beef up and get our creatures harder, better, faster, stronger, because why wouldn't we? But the best auras in this deck are the ones that affect our enemy's creatures. A double whammy, as not only will they potentially nullify our enemy's creatures, but that Ariete end step trigger counts it as an aura we control. My favourite commander on this list, so devilishly disgusting. Just missing out on the bronze medal spot, we have Elenda the Dusk Rose. First printed in 2018's Rivals of Ixalan, lifelinking Elenda says whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Elenda. When Elenda dies, create X 1/1 vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is Elenda's power. Another Orzhov commander, another one faced entirely around those aristocrats. In an Elenda deck, it is essential you make as many creatures as possible as often as you can, whether that be tokens, cheap mana value spells, or more. The more creatures we have, the more that when they die, we get to put those nice +1/+1 counters on Elenda. Then, whether Elenda is killed by your opponents, or you have targeted removal to Elenda herself, you will create the biggest, baddest, widest army of vampires, always lifelink. And the best thing that Elenda loves are all of those cards that bring Elenda straight back to the field. If she dies, you get a load of vampires, but then she comes back again. That is devilishly disgusting. A very under the radar but sneakily powerful commander, and one that if you don't deal with quick in a game of EDH, will overwhelm you before you know it.
You were expecting a joke there.
For the third best commander we have Athreos, God of Passage. Printed in 2014's Journey into Nyx, as long as your devotion to Orzhov is less than 7, our indestructible god isn't a creature. When another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. Let's start with the most popular route, Shadowborn Apostles. Have a deck full, sack to search out a demon, make our enemies choose whether to return to hand or potentially do up to 18 damage straight to their face. Now if that's not your bag, then this is another commander that loves a bit of aristocrats. Have that army of creatures, usually very cheap to cast, get them sacked and potentially keep getting them back to your hand. With 40 life in commander, this is one that if you get lots of creatures going, the recursion will be strong, as your opponents won't be able to keep affording to pay the 3 life to do so. A strong commander with a great secret layer drop card. I was actually a very big fan of that Theros Beyond Death alternate art style. Anyone else?
And you will reply, I do.
Runner up and the second best commander, we have Leasa, Shroud of Dusk. Printed in 2020's Commander Legends, and may I just say, what a set Commander Legends was. Rather than pay the 2 for each previous time you cast a spell from the command zone this game, pay 2 life that many times. Leasa has flying and lifelink. Whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. These Leasa decks almost always focus on that life gain. A commander that's very rare to see that entirely almost avoids command attacks, throwing in every way to gain life is paramount here. The more life we gain, the better advantage we are to continually pay 4 rather than pay the increasing mana cost. Another commander that will be kill on sight, as your opponents won't want to be losing 2 life per spell, throwing in all of that usual protection is extra important. Keep Leasa on the field, continually grow your life, slowly drain your opponents, and fly over your opponent's face for the win. Winner and the best Orzhov commander is Teysa Karlov. First printed in 2019's Ravnica Allegiance, if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Creature tokens you control have Vigilance and Lifelink. First off, let's look at creature tokens. We're going to be finding all of the ways to make those tokens. The more tokens we make, the more our army has Vigilance and Lifelink. From ETB, end step triggers, or even mechanics like Afterlife, creating tokens is so easy to do in MTG. The other half of the fun is having every sort of creature with those death triggers. That way, thanks to our commander, we'll be getting them twice. Sir Conrad likes this. And it is twice as nice if any of our death triggers create us token creatures. Now we have double the token creature army, all with Vigilance and Lifelink. This is a great commander that can not only get exceedingly powerful, but one that is rightfully the best Orzhov commander in MTG. There we have it, that is the top 10 Orzhov list. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for all things MTG. Check out our link tree for all of our social media and affiliate links. For now though, I'm all tapped out, so I'll see you in the next video.